In a world where crime runs rampant, corporations control the police, and the only thing standing between order and chaos is a cybernetic law officer, you get the sci-fi action film RoboCop. This 1987 classic is brutal and satirical, features one of the greatest suit designs ever put on film, an absolutely unhinged gang of villains, and some of the most over-the-top violence you'll ever see. It was everything a teenage boy could possibly want in a movie, but how does it compare today to what we remember from watching it as kids? Dead or alive, you're coming with us to find out in this episode of The Regular Guy Movie Show.
Lights go down, let's hit play. Regular guys got something to say. The Regular Guy Movie Show, talking flicks. Here we go!
Welcome to The Regular Guy Movie Show, where we break down the films from our youth to see if they still hold up. Today, we're diving into Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop, a film that's equal parts action flick, political satire, and 80s excess. We'll talk about its over-the-top villains, its brutal violence, its scarily relevant themes, and of course, whether it still kicks as much ass today as it did back then. I'm Seth, and joining me, as always, on this cinematic exploration are two of my favoriteest peoples, my co-hosts, Justin and Brian. What's up, fellas?
Hey, how's it going?
Hello, hello.
So let's get into it, gentlemen. When did you first experience RoboCop?
Okay, I watched RoboCop for the first time in the movie theater in 7th grade. I was living overseas at the time, but the base had a movie theater called Gateway Gardens, and nobody really cared if you snuck into an R-rated film. So yeah, I was, what was I? I was 12 in the 7th grade, RoboCop on the big screen.
Very nice. So for me, I watched this movie all the way through for the first time yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. 1987, I was 5 years old when this thing came out. So I don't know how much longer after that my parents had rented it and they were watching it in their living room. And I remember coming in and out of the room and, you know, seeing RoboCop's like headgear and stuff and it, like armor, and it was really cool, but I had no attention span and did not stick around for it. So this was my first experience with RoboCop all the way through.
Well, it might shock you, having two Methodist ministers for parents, that this was not a film we rented at home. and when I was 8 years old, I was too young to go to the movie theater to see it. And somehow, actually, this snuck past me until I was well into high school. And then when I got to college, watched it many more times. But yeah, this viewing was probably my first revisit of it in 20 or so years.
Yeah, ditto for me. This reviewing, when I watched it last night again, was the first time in decades. And I wasn't disappointed.
It was really, really good.
But we'll get to that.
I'm excited to talk about it.
I know, me too.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
So for anyone who may not be aware of RoboCop or might just have a vague idea of what RoboCop is, let's go ahead and just do him a favor. And Brian, go ahead and give him a little synopsis of what this film is all about.
Sure thing. So RoboCop came out in 1987. It's an action sci-fi movie that takes place in a slightly dystopian future where crime is rampant in the city of Detroit. And the city's police force is controlled by the mega corporation Omni Consumer Products in the movie called OCP. So the story follows Alex Murphy, an honest and dedicated cop who is brutally gunned down in the line of duty. OCP uses his remains to create RoboCop, a highly advanced cyborg law enforcer designed to clean up the streets. However, as RoboCop begins his work, he starts to regain memories of his past, leading him on a quest to rediscover his humanity and seek justice against those responsible for his death.
Justice.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how did this film do in the theater?
Phenomenal. Okay, it was a success at the box office. It was released on July 17th, like I said, of 1987. Had a production budget of around $13 million. The film grossed approximately $53.4 million in the U.S. alone and went on to make more than that worldwide. So it was a solid return, considering its fairly modest budget for such an action sci-fi flick of that time.
Yeah, and one of the most notable things looking back on this film, it was the American directorial debut, I believe, of director Paul Verhoeven. Went on to make many other films, including Total Recall, one of my personal favorites, Starship Troopers. You may or may not have heard this little movie called Showgirls. He did that.
Wow, I would not have guessed he would have done Showgirls.
It's a bit of a turn, right?
It is.
It is night and day, for sure.
There was the writing team on this, Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner, came up with the idea for this film while working on Blade Runner back in 1982, and they were really fascinated about the idea of a robotic law officer in a very corrupt world. And you could see that, if you kind of look at Blade Runner and kind of think about the cybernetics and the implant or the androids and all that, you could see where the seeds were definitely planted to eventually bring us to RoboCop just a few years later.
Now, I did hear Verhoeven was a bit of a demanding director on set. A lot of the actors and actresses were a little taken aback by his authoritative directorial attitude.
Well, like I said, this was his American debut. I mean, he was an established filmmaker he's Dutch. And so it was very established in Europe, but this was his first time coming into America. And in fact, what was found interesting, he did not. He took the initial pass on this. He was like, I don't want to do this. And partly because, from what I understand, English was not his first language. And so he didn't understand some of the subtext that was in the movie. And it was his wife did a pass through. It was like, you really should do this. And I kind of wonder whether that lost in translationness also may have translated onto this on set relationships as well.
I bet you're I bet you're probably right. Yeah,
very well could be.
Film is only so much. The people behind the scenes, what really people probably care most about, those people on the scene. So Justin, tell me about the characters that brought this film to life.
Yeah, sure thing. So first we have Officer Alex Murphy, who became RoboCop. He was played by Peter Weller.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
He had a rough job in this film.
He did. It was pretty thankless job to get going. At the beginning of this movie, all the police officers are being killed and, on verge of strike. He comes in, brand new guy, and doesn't last very long.
It was his first shift.
Yeah. What a rough day.
That's an awful day. Awful first day.
Well, even not just in the film, but the actor, Peter Weller, they had to redesign the suit because it was too heavy and it was too cumbersome.
Yeah, he was losing like 3 pounds a day.
He was, yeah.
Holy cow.
He went to mime school before shooting the film so he could learn to move aesthetically like a robot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I gotta say, he brought so much, because even when he's in full RoboCop regalia, you don't see his eyes. You only see a little bit of his face. His movements are intentionally stiff and robotic, but he still brought something to life.
You're absolutely right. He still showed character. He showed characteristics. He showed humor at times. He showed anger at times. He showed all these things that a robot would not show those emotions, but he conveyed that through, I don't know, facial expressions, speech patterns, even though he was talking like a robot or cyborg. Yeah, I thought he did a really, really good job with this.
And I kind of wonder why he didn't become a bigger star after this movie. I mean, he did the sequels and he did some other things. And certainly, you still see him pop up in places, usually being a conniving, borderline villain type character. But he really didn't. He wasn't a leading man.
The thing that I noticed about this cast was I didn't recognize any of them, aside from Clarence Boddicker, and it was just because he was Red Foreman from that '70s show, and that's the only reference that I had to any of these actors. So if you guys know movies that other movies that these characters have played, let me know.
Yeah, I'm with you. Actually, who stood out to me more than anything were a couple of the side characters.
Yeah,
2 of the people in Clarence's gang. Immediately, I'm like, I know who that is.
I didn't recognize them either.
Yeah.
Well, I do know. Let's go to the second character, his partner, starting out.
Yeah. Officer Ann Lewis, played by Nancy Allen.
Hello. I haven't really had a chance to introduce myself. I'm Ann Lewis.
Ann Lewis is RoboCop's loyal partner who helps him rediscover his past.
Now, as an actress, she was also in Carrie.
Was she?
She was, yeah.
I did not realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So she'd been around. She'd been in a few things. Yeah. I thought she did a really good job with this.
I think she did what she could with it, but I felt like the character was kind of weak.
There were times where she seemed a little bit more robotic than the actual cyborg.
And I love, Again, this is part writing, but whenever Murphy comes back as RoboCop, immediately she's the person who's like, I know who you are. You're Murphy. Don't you remember me? How? Why would he remember you? You were only partner for like 6 hours.
Right. Yeah. They didn't even make it a full shift.
He's had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. She was too busy chewing her gum and blowing bubbles.
Yeah. Staring at wieners.
In the locker room there. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, no, it wasn't the locker room.
And later
it was
she,
when
yeah.
they were making the bust.
Right.
Yeah, she was busting a guy in mid pee, and she got caught peeking.
When she went down for the ween peek is when he disarmed her from her weapon there. All right, who else we got?
We have Clarence Boddicker, played by Kurtwood Smith.
Red Foreman.
See, I got this problem. Cops don't like me, so I don't like cops.
As you shouldn't, Clarence Boddicker. He's a ruthless crime lord responsible for Alex Murphy's death.
He's just a general jerk.
He is. He's an asshole.
Really maniacal. I mean, I would say, I know that he's not the big villain of the movie, but he is the best villain of the movie.
Yeah, I'd agree. He's the best villain.
I mean, I thought he was a jerk in that 70s show, but this trumped it by a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean he never like shot Eric's hand off and then laughed about it.
Right.
But no, I mean there was something, he had some of the best lines in the whole movie. And then on top of it, he just brought this maniacal charisma to everything. And he was out acting everyone around him. And man, he was a star of the show.
Absolutely.
In a lot of those memorable one-liners that he says, like, what was his name? Bobby. Hey, Bobby, can you fly? He came up with those off the cuff. Those were all ad libs.
No kidding.
In the police station, when he spits the bloody spit on the captain's desk, that was ad lib.
Wow.
And the little wire rim glasses that he wore,
Uh-huh.
he showed up on set with those himself. It wasn't part of wardrobe or script. He just thought it made his character look more intelligently mean.
Well, there was something about that, because to look at him, he looked like more of a PE teacher or a guidance counselor.
For sure.
And then he opened his mouth and you're like, no, not so much.
Red Foreman.
How dare you?
Where did this come from?
All right, so let's move on.
All right. Next we have Dick Jones, played by Ronnie Cox.
Hello, buddy boy. Dick Jones here. I guess you're on your knees about now, begging for your life.
Dick's name suited him.
Yeah,
did.
That was an appropriate moniker.
Yeah.
So Dick was the corrupt senior VP of Omni Consumer Products, the mega corporation behind RoboCop.
Not just RoboCop, also the ED-209.
ED-209.
Yeah, lovingly referred to as Ed.
Yeah, and while Clarence was certainly more menacing with a shotgun in his hand, man, I wouldn't want to cross Dick in an alley either.
No.
That's terrible.
Or in a bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Bob found out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that he did.
Speaking of Bob, next we have Bob Morton, played by Miguel Ferrer.
God, you girls are so great. I mean, I love to be with intelligent women.
Bob Morton was an Omni Consumer Products executive who develops the RoboCop program.
His character does show also that the entire corporate structure in that company was all just backstabbing, backbiting. I'm going to get ahead. I don't care about you, your program, your feelings, or any of the people. I just care about making money.
I added the old man in here because I thought it was funny he didn't have a name in the movie, but it was the old man was played by Daniel O'Harelily.
These are serious charges. What is your evidence?
And the old man is the CEO of Omni Consumer Products, who oversees the company with a detached corporate mindset.
I was torn on this guy. I mean, he wasn't a main character really in the film. He was critical, because really he's the one putting the things in place, and he's got his big plans for Delta City. In 6 months we break ground and we have to get rid of all the crime. So definitely his motivations were what drove everything else happening here. And he seemed to have, on one hand, we must defeat crime, but he also did have a sense of sensibility about it. I mean, he was all for robots going out shooting people, as long as they're the right people.
A little morality there.
A little. I mean, it wasn't a huge amount of morality.
Just a smidge.
But there was a smidge. It was a touch.
And I thought it was interesting that everybody in the corporation, even in the upper corporate structure, never referred to him by name. They always just called him the old man.
The old man.
Yeah. I'm going to risk something here. I'm going to take a fly because they always refer to him as the old man. And I wonder how old he actually was. Was this a cocoon situation where actually the people playing old people really weren't that old? Or was he actually genuinely old? So pause a moment while I look this up on IMDb. What was his name?
Daniel
O'Hare.
O''Her.
And I love on IMDb, it actually cites him as the old man.
The old man.
Let's see. He was born in 1919.
That's an old man.
Yeah. So he would have been, this was 87. We'd say probably shot in 86.
68.
Yeah. So I guess that qualifies. He was a senior citizen.
He was an old guy. Yeah. An elder.
Yeah.
The old man.
The only one.
Yeah.
And it's the
old man.
No older people existed in old Detroit.
That's the old man to you, son.
Yes.
Now, as far as acting was concerned for me, there was nobody in this entire film that I thought was distractingly bad.
No, I agree. I think they worked fairly well with the material. Like I said, Lewis, I thought was kind of weak, but she was really just a support role. There was some writing there that I think was definitely questionable. Why she sneak up on a guy taking a whiz and pops her gum instead of before, saying freeze.
Right.
There was some bad policing choices that was clearly scripted. But beyond that, I felt like everyone, even some of the smaller characters, like the people in Clarence's gang, brought so much to their characters. There was a good number of people acting their asses off.
Absolutely.
In all the right ways.
And I'll even say that the guy that did get caught peeing, man, did he commit to that character. That laugh was maniacal and it worked on so many levels.
Oh, all throughout the film, when the gang was involved in, consternation with the police, he held that same attitude.
He did.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Freeze. Okay, let's see those hands. Nice and easy.
Sure. Mind if I zip this up?
And then she looks down.
And then she gets punched in the face.
Gets punched in the face and, sent into a pile of cardboard boxes. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, everyone brought something to it. And then, as I mentioned, there was a couple of characters in that gang that stood out to me almost immediately. Paul McCrane played the character Emil. And if you ever watch ER, he played the loudmouth trauma surgeon, Dr. Romano.
Okay.
So I'm like, this Dr. Romano. And then I forget which character it was, but there's Ray Wise is also a member of the gang. And he's, again, one of those always menacing kind of characters, on one hand, kind of a grandfather in these days, but the other hand, he might stab you just for fun. But, so all these characters came together and, really brought together a movie that blended action, gore, and satirical commentary. And one of the themes I thought really rode throughout this film, and it kind of feels a little bit prescient today, is that corporate greed. Because what actually was kind of funny, and I was thinking about this on the drive over, if to prepare yourself for watching RoboCop, if you've never watched it before, there's two movies you should probably watch. Roger and Me, the documentary by Michael Moore, which basically details the decline of Detroit following, the failing of the automotive industry, and Wall Street, which really, highlights corporate greed.
Oh, yeah.
And if you watch those two movies together, and they were both made around the same time as RoboCop, interestingly. I think Roger and Me was a couple years later. But if you watch those two movies and then watch RoboCop, the setting of RoboCop and the themes that it talks about will suddenly just click so much more.
So I have a question. In RoboCop, it was set, obviously, a bit in the future. Was it truly dystopian?
I don't think it was truly dystopian, no.
I don't think it was either.
I wouldn't call it dystopian in the fact that it's a complete economic decline. There wasn't a plague, there wasn't an alien invasion that that had to cope with. But I would say, it was a product of 1980s Reagan era fueled fears of crime on the streets, the drug issues, and that the inner city was a hellscape. And so I really think it basically built upon those themes of dystopia, and much less of like a complete cataclysmic kind of dystopia.
I agree with that. And I think we see a lot of that in the dumbing down of the average citizen.
Yeah.
In this movie, because I don't know what you guys thought. I thought the commercials were pretty funny.
The commercials
absolutely.
were my favorite part. It was so great.
And I really enjoyed the news cutscenes.
Yeah.
So in this movie, it would break away to a newscast, and they would do a short 3-4 minute news brief on what's going on in the world. And it was never good news.
Right. Never.
And it was delivered real heavy stuff, like when the satellite went off and killed 113 people and 2 former presidents. And they were just like, okay, and on to you, Bobby. What's the next story?
Well, yeah, and even like some of the commercials that they would show, or the clips of TV shows that would be within the movie. One in particular that showed up multiple times.
I'd buy that for $1.
They used media within the media to kind of world build.
Yeah.
They set the scene. This is what's going on in the world. This is what's going on. And one of that really jumped out to me. There's a car that shows up throughout the movie, the 6000 SUX, which I found hilarious on multiple fronts, including the fact that it says sucks.
Yeah.
Right. But I love this little commercial they had within the movie.
It's back. Big is back because bigger is better. 6000 SUX, an American tradition.
Having these kind of commercials and different things, but then kind of showing the priorities of this culture that the movie set within was a very clever way of doing without having to actually say, well, this is what we care about now. They were able to just show these things and suddenly just give you exposition in a fun, different kind of way.
Oh, I thought it was a great way of saying the dumbing down of America has happened. And we know this because these are the commercials that we show. These are the TV shows that we watch. This is what is entertainment now.
Have either of you watched the movie Idiocracy?
I have.
Yeah. See, those watching it now, just the last couple of days, that's immediately where my mind went to is the same thing. The dumbing down of America and how it kind of just shows that, a line as simple as, I bought that for $1. Everyone in the movie finds to be hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody
absolutely.
laughs every time. I mean, even in the middle of a crime, they stop and watch the TV.
He breaks the window just to turn it up louder so we can hear that.
So they can watch the show. And I imagine the show is a more adult Benny Hill-ish kind of show with the catchphrase, I'd buy that for $1.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I actually watched a video with one of the writers who talked about that line, and they referenced, they wanted something that basically, if you said it enough, everyone suddenly would think it's funny. It's a nonsensical thing, but if it's said enough, suddenly becomes part of the zeitgeist. Everyone suddenly cares about it and thinks it's hilarious. It's the new "What's up?"
I remember saying this in school.
Yeah,
I remember my classmates and I in middle school when somebody would say something funny or, "Hey, what's for lunch today?" "I don't know. It's Friday. We're having pizza." "Oh, I'd buy that for $1." It became a small little catchphrase and part of our pop culture from having watched this movie.
And what's interesting, again, kind of paralleling the real world, we see in this major corporation, OCP, and I kind of wonder if the film was made today, whether it would be Amazon or maybe it would be Tesla or some other company that would be portrayed in this light.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Like it just remodernize it, just it's dollars over people, and it was abundantly clear that they didn't care about who they were hurting or whichever. It was just the bottom line.
The enforcement droid, Series 209, is a self-sufficient law enforcement robot. 209 is currently programmed for urban pacification, but that is only the beginning. After a successful tour of duty in old Detroit, we can expect 209 to become the hot military product for the next decade.
That's ominous.
It is ominous. Now, OCP is not just in the policing business. They're also in the weapons business. In fact, at one point in the movie, the senior VP says we're practically the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that shows you the ruthlessness and the resources that OCP has.
Oh, yeah, man, they got some boomsticks at their disposal.
They do. And the biggest one had bipedal legs. And that was the ED-209, who couldn't manipulate stairs.
You now have 15 seconds to comply.
So this was our introduction to the ED-209. This big, as you said, bipedal war machine, essentially, that's going to be put out onto the streets. And there's two things from this introduction that really stood out to me. Number one, the stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think about when you first saw ED-209 come on the screen?
So cheesy.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, as far as like the stop, I mean, it looked cool, but it did not move cool. It was jerky, and you could just, it looked fake when it moved. When it was standing by itself, it was great. You know, everything looked great, but whenever it moved, it just looked fake to me.
You know, it was ominous. It was very heavily armed. It was very cool, but you're right. Then it started moving.
And why is the future of law enforcement so heavily armed?
Well, it's Detroit.
I get it. That seemed a little overkill.
No offense to any of our friends listening out there in Detroit, but
yeah. And what's interesting on the stop motion front, the same visual artist who did the stop motion for Empire Strikes Back, Dave Tippett, did the stop motion for the ED-209. And the difference being, in Empire Strikes Back, they use a slightly different version of stop motion that incorporated more blur in between the frames to kind of smooth the motion out. Where in RoboCop, they didn't. And so you have much of more of a herky-jerky kind of thing. And I don't know, personally, I'm with you. It seems kind of janky, but at the same time, I think that adds a little bit of intimidation, but also a little bit of vulnerability to ED-209.
Do you think that was a stylistic kind of choice, that they thought it would look better herky-jerky than smooth?
I think it made it look more violent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it, and I don't, whether it was quite frankly, it probably just came down to a budgetary thing. But I think it added to it. Yes, it looks kind of janky, looking creepy, and yeah, it just made it feel freaking creepy.
It definitely could have looked better.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, especially when I was in the 7th grade, when I was 12 years old and saw this, that definitely didn't stick out in my mind. But seeing now, as an adult, with the advances in technology that we have for green screens and things like that, yeah, it looked bad. But back then, I don't remember it looking bad.
And it wasn't bad enough to pull me out of the story either.
No.
It was a chuckle and like, it's 1987, But yeah, it didn't take me out of it. I still enjoyed everything that happened along in that scene.
The other thing I want to bring up regarding ED-209 is the sound design around the whole thing. Whenever ED-209 came on screen, there were these sounds that were simultaneously mechanical but also extremely organic.
Mm-hmm.
They sounded like lions' roars and pigs squealing and different things, and which added again this other additional layer of creepiness to it.
Absolutely.
The terrifying growl of the malfunctioning ED-209 was created by mixing bear, lion, and pig sounds to make it sound mechanical yet animalistic.
That's interesting.
So you hit it right on the head.
I mean, but it stood out.
It did.
And this is one of those elements most movies I don't even notice. Sound design is one of those most overlooked things. Throughout this movie, sound design is so amazing. I mean, it really is incredible. And even this goes, they made a choice to clearly bring in very recognizable animal sounds. Like anyone watching that could say, that sounds like a pig squealing. But it's worked. They added additional level of intimidation, but familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not just that, the whole sound around, not just the growl, but the sound it made when its foot would hit the floor, and the feet would, the whole audio sequence of the ED-209 really heightened the anxiety of seeing it on screen.
Yeah.
I thought ED-209 had better sound design than RoboCop himself. It was really, to me, it was really distracting whenever RoboCop was walking, because it sounded like, those little Casio
servo,
keyboards.
yeah.
And it was like hitting the electronic tom-toms. And it was like, doosh, doosh, doosh. And it just sounded exactly like a Casio keyboard.
Yeah.
Every time he walked. That took me out of it a bit.
But anyway, so after we meet ED-209 and we go through all the lion sounds and pig squealing, well, there's a little bit of a glitch.
You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. You now have 5 seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1. I am now authorized to use physical force.
Still shooting.
Not excessive at all.
No, not the slightest bit.
Ed 209 definitely used physical force.
I mean, what did Ed 209 think he was going to encounter in the streets of Detroit? A freaking elephant?
Exactly.
Well, then my favorite thing was when the guy got shot and he flies across the room and he's laying there. They're like, somebody call the paramedics. I mean, there's nothing left of this guy but tissue.
Well, and what I loved is even the moments before that, whenever Ed 209 is getting ready to, do his thing and everyone is, issuing his mechanical warnings, and all the people in the boardroom, the guy throws down his gun and he's like trying to run and hide. And they're like, no. And they like throw him out there to basically be massacred while saving themselves. And they act all shocked, but hey, you put him out there.
Right. You did this.
Get out of under the table or
well, he should have run down the stairs.
The stairs.
Yes.
Yep. That's what would have saved him.
Yep.
But, because of Ed 209's failure, Bob comes in, saves the day for the company, suggests his RoboCop program, which, has, as we learn, has got candidates planted throughout precincts throughout Detroit. Again, I'd never picked on it up on this when I was a kid, but watching it now, did that mean Murphy was actually a candidate and was planted there knowing he would probably get killed?
Well, if OCP runs the police, that's definitely a possibility.
Because it was never explained why he got transferred, right?
I think that explains why. And later on, they do say he signed the paperwork.
Yeah.
Referring to being part of the RoboCop program.
That's true. They could do whatever they wanted, so cut that other arm off, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, as it turns out, of course, Murphy, does show up at this precinct, meets his new partner. They go out on, their first patrol. And then a sequence that basically involved, I think, the worst variety and the worst sequence of policing I can possibly imagine. Starts off, they are chasing a van filled with Clarence and his goons, and engage in a high-speed gunfight. And even like as they're approaching, they see the van in the distance, and Murphy's like, "Give me your side piece." And then suddenly, like, he hangs out the side of a car to engage with a gunfight with a van full of goons, and that's your first plan,
right? On a highway.
I mean, that was your first plan of action,
right? Yeah. We're not gonna try to pull you over and assess the situation. It's just give me the guns and let's start shooting.
Well, and then they ask for backup, and they're told by command that backup was unavailable.
And what do they do?
They went in anyway.
They sure did.
And then what did they do?
Well,
they split up.
They did.
Which, if you're going in without backup, why then, you would think you'd stick together. But no, it's like, you go upstairs, I'll go over here. It's like, come on. You're asking to get your ass shot.
I think that's one of the things that I like for more modern police movies. You see, or even military movies, you see the training that they go through to check corners and clear rooms. None of that was done. Like it was real.
There was a
unrealistic.
complete nonchalance.
Right.
And again, Lewis the whole time chewing bubble gum, blowing bubbles, popping bubbles at the worst possible moment.
Right.
And, they were not in good situations. They both got singled out. They both could have got killed.
Right.
It was just bad policing.
Which led us to one of the most brutal cinematic scenes I can ever remember seeing.
Well, give the man a hand.
Red blew his hand off.
He sure did.
Red's
with
a dick.
one shot. Those were some powerful shotguns.
And that wasn't it. They didn't stop there. Man, they just completely blew this dude away.
So you start checking your watch for the time, like,
Yeah.
is this when are you gonna stop killing him?
We got like 5 seconds to go here. 4, 3, 2, 1.
And he's out of ammo.
He stopped because he ran out of ammo. And then this guy is built like a Timex. He takes a licking, keeps on ticking because he is.
Hey, Clarence, he's still alive.
He's still alive. How do you take that many shotgun blasts and still be alive?
Okay, Funzo.
And then also a shot to the head.
But he's still alive.
He's still not dead.
He's still not dead. They rush him to the hospital, and there he dies.
That's where he goes.
Spoiler alert, he dies at the hospital.
Yeah, right.
That was a very brutal scene to watch. It made me uncomfortable, really.
Yeah.
It did. And that scene is why the movie was almost rated X.
Yeah, because they had to make a lot of cuts to get it down to a rated R.
Correct. And not because of, we think of rated X movies, we think of because of, adult situations and sexual situations. No, nudity. But no, it was all because of the violence. And mostly the violence from that one scene.
But let me ask you, because there are war movies like Saving Private Ryan that have death all over the dang place. People getting blown in half. People getting shot. You think, even just that opening scene of Saving Private Ryan on D-Day. Hundreds and thousands of people getting killed on film. Maybe not thousands, that's exaggeration. But a lot of people died in that movie in one scene. That body count has got to be way higher than RoboCop. How did that not get an X?
I think because this was so personal.
I mean,
it was point blank. It was a cop. It was pretty much the definition of in cold blood. And it was, first they shoot the hand off and he's squirting blood, and then they shoot him with shotguns a bunch of times, and he recoils and he's squirming and bits are blown off and he's bleeding out profusely, and then they go and they point blank put one in the noggin. It was hard. It was made to be that way. It was shot to be hard to watch, and it really elicited that response emotionally from me watching that scene.
Now you said that they had to cut parts of that scene to keep it from getting an X rating.
Correct.
So I really am curious how long that scene was prior to the cuts, because we just you guys heard it with us. It was
long.
13 seconds of getting shot.
Yeah. Dang. Nasty.
Yeah, totally brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And so they rush him to the hospital because he's still breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Impossible.
Okay, so the helicopter lands at the hospital, and the doctors meet him there. And oddly enough, those actors and actresses playing the doctors in the ER were true ER doctors.
What?
No kidding.
No way.
From the city of Houston, Texas.
That's amazing.
Yep. They wanted it to sound real, and they said, just go and do and say what you would normally do if this situation ever occurred.
What a great way to do that.
I thought so. So they had the real experts saying the real things if that situation ever happened. I thought that was an awesome way to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But ultimately, as we said, spoiler alert, Murphy doesn't make it. Mm-mm. And as a result, Bob gets his test subject. And that actually brought up one of my favorite sequences from the movie. It's the only probably really non-violent sequence of the movie. But the sequence where we get to see RoboCop really be born. And what I love about this is shown entirely from RoboCop's perspective.
Loved it.
I loved it. The whole POV about it. And there's just little moments that I thought were just very well done. Again, bringing a great combination of visuals and also sound design.
Bring in the LED. Lock it down.
And as they're doing this, every one of those little, screwdriver or the drill hits, the LED gets a little bit bigger. And kind of throughout this, again, you just kind of see him kind of come to life. You just see the process as he's just sitting there, unaware of the world, but still just kind of processing what's happening. Although they did have, and this, if I had a negative about this film, is that they were a little heavy-handed with their foreshadowing, including moments like this.
Can you understand what I'm saying?
Doesn't matter. We're going to blank his memory anyway.
Really? Are you? You're going to blank his memory?
Till he had a dream.
Yeah. that seems A little bit of hubris right there, buddy.
There was something that I wrote down here that I thought, who celebrates New Year's at work? And
good question.
So this plays into something else, though, because I know they're trying to show the passage of time, but they never really came out and said when they started either, though. So it's like, yeah, you're passing time, but you could have done that with just, the fade to black and fade back in. Like, you didn't need to celebrate New Year's at work. So I know that time has passed.
Yeah. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, basically they're in the sequence where we're showing RoboCop coming to life. We see a moment where all the people working in the lab are celebrating New Year's. They're like, Happy New Year's. And someone comes up and gives RoboCop a kiss on the mouth. And yeah, so it's kind of weird. And it didn't even click with me until you just mentioned, why would they be there on New Year's Eve? Are they just that sad and pathetic?
I guess they are, but
I thought what it did was it set the stage for that the people who were working on the RoboCop program were personally invested in it.
Yeah.
I don't think during the process of working with RoboCop that he could have been left alone. So there was always somebody there with him at all time, 24/7. So maybe they plan to, hey, if Sally's got to be working, maybe we'll celebrate with her at work. I don't know if that was the backstory there. But I thought that was one of many things through that process that showed that this development team had a very personal relationship and personal attachment to this program called RoboCop.
Sure.
I just think they could have brought Sally a birthday cake and said happy birthday, and it would achieve the same thing. And would have been a little bit more believable.
Yeah, that'd worked.
I also think there was a missed opportunity. Assuming this was Sally who gave RoboCop the smooch. I mean, that was RoboCop's first kiss.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real meet cute right there. That could have spun off into a whole new series.
Like the bumper sticker says, flash a RoboCop.
Also, in my notes, I got to say, it really stood out to me. I know that they thought for sure we wiped his memory, but why would you bring him back to the precinct where he worked, even though it was only for a few hours?
The exact same one. Yeah, why?
You've got a whole city that's riddled with crime. Why are you putting him there?
I guess because they thought that the memory wipe would work and he would never recall any of it. I don't know.
Or is the closest one of the OCP office.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they had the best Chinese takeout near there.
Maybe. No, he can't eat Chinese food.
Well, he can't. He eats baby food. But the people who work in the lab.
Well, it was also the precinct that needed the most help.
Well, true.
They kind of set that up as to why he got transferred there. They were losing guys and gals every day.
Yeah, welcome to hell.
Right.
But on his first patrol, he's immediately making an impact. He stops a robbery. He shoots a guy in the dick.
Mm-hmm. Let the woman go. You are under arrest.
You better back up, pal! Because he's gonna kill her! He's gonna kill her! I got this bitch! He's gonna kill her, man! This bitch! He's gonna kill her!
Now, I know it's hilarious seeing a guy getting shot in the dick, but damn does it hurt just watching it.
It does.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
He did, yeah. And that kind of we've this is our third episode.
Mm-hmm.
We've watched 3 different movies now, and all 3 of those have a rapey scene in them.
What was going on in the 80s?
Is that just the 80s?
Oh my.
Well, it's like quicksand. Like rape is everywhere.
Maybe.
Right?
God, I'm glad I wasn't a woman in the 80s.
No kidding. Scary times.
Absolutely. But, while it was shocking and brutal and hilarious, I gotta say, RoboCop demonstrated his calculating abilities to determine the best course of action in that situation, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, he sure did.
He certainly disarmed the situation, saved the woman's life.
Yeah. And then recommended rape counseling.
Right. Yeah.
What
a good guy. What a good cop.
Absolutely.
The mayor hostage scene, which followed that pretty close. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
That I don't know if it was intentionally funny or not. The 6,000 sucks got brought up into that, getting ripped through the wall. And that's also where we were first introduced to their love affair with punching people through windows. It is a common theme throughout this entire movie. Somebody's always either getting punched through a window, thrown through a window. They love throwing people through windows. I love it.
There's just they kind of fell on. It was like, I don't know, one of those 80s kind of tropes. Think of Die Hard. You know, you have the villain at the end falling going through a window. Falling. At the end of this movie, Dick Jones goes through a window. You know, it's well traveled territory, but it works.
It does work.
You can't argue with the results.
Just wish the effects of that shot were a little bit better. My God, his arms were like twice as long as his body as he was falling out of that window.
You know, after following the success of his first patrol, stopping robberies, stopping rapes, just, you know, murdering terrorists, you know, goes back home, sits in his little cove, has this little dreamy dream, and things start to come back. You know, shocker, his memory wipe didn't really take.
Correct. I guess it didn't go deep enough. There's something down deep inside of who he was as a human being that they just couldn't touch.
I thought it was kind of some sad moments watching him struggle in his sleep. You know, like it made you feel the human side of it. You know,
right? Yeah, kind of like he was seizing.
And then you know, he wakes up and starts to walk off, and that's where he bumps back into his old partner for all of 6 hours, Lewis.
How can I help you, Officer Lewis?
It's not really what I meant. Don't you have a name? Murphy. It's you.
It is him.
It is him.
She's right.
She's got it.
Yeah, nailed it.
So is this what triggered him to go download, and like he just walked into that data center?
Not yet. No, because he from this point now his mind is starting to jog and starting to piece some things together, but he doesn't have it all together yet. He doesn't get those pieces until he gets to the gas station, where he gets where he confronts Emil, who is you know, harassing the gas station attendant, getting his motorcycle gassed up when RoboCop appears, and you know, they have their interaction, and he repeats his same line from earlier in the movie, "Dead or alive, I'm going to bring you in," which Emil recognizes.
I know you. You're dead. We killed you. We killed you.
Well, yes and no. You know,
right, yeah, you did.
He's back.
Yeah. A little harder to kill now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you killed him, but you didn't quite get rid of him.
and so in that moment, that's where we see, like, you know, hit through his POV view, his mind starts to kind of process, like, you know, recognizing, trying to process who this person is, and, you know, actually starts to inquire.
Who are you? Who are you?
Now from there, that's where he goes then to the data center.
Did you, like, I know how they use this later in the film.
Yeah. Again, the heavy foreshadowing.
Right. But I just thought, man, what an odd choice to have a weird hand probe that you can download data into the network.
And I know where they're kind of were going with it. It has, you know, a little bit of R2D2-ish. You know, you go back to the Star Wars movie that he could access any computer by putting this little probe thingy in, turning some dials. And I think they wanted to go with the same thing. But man, you could have picked a less ominous looking USB port.
Right.
So for those who didn't see it, the USB came out of where a middle finger would, like his middle knuckle. So he makes a fist, and this spike comes out.
It was like a Wolverine spike.
It was. It just one right out of that middle knuckle. So it's like he's flipping everybody off.
I mean, that sucker had to have been 12 inches long.
Yeah, it was a big one. It was a big one. And then he sticks it into the computer and then turns it and does his download stuff.
Why would they even had that? I mean,
because it looked really, really cool.
Well, I know it looked really, really cool, but why would the data center have a kind of port that could be, and apparently these are everywhere,
right?
But yet the scientists seemed awfully shocked to see him have one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was in the boardroom where they just had a wall of TVs that he could plug into. It was the same thing. Like, I don't know a server that has a connector like that. I mean, it'd be cool if it did.
It's your stabby USB.
In this semi-dystopian future, maybe that's the universal port access device.
I mean, I guess it could be.
Yeah.
But this ultimately puts, after he accesses the data server, he gets the full data download of who is who and who this guy was and who he's connected to. And lo and behold, they killed Murphy. Oh, well, wait a minute. That's my name. I'm Murphy. And suddenly this starts coming back together. And from this point on, it's no longer about justice. It is about revenge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, I was all in for the ride.
Yeah, I was too. I was rooting real hard for him.
Absolutely.
And so, he works his way from baddie to baddie until he eventually finds the big baddie, Clarence.
Clarence Boddicker, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Fuck you.
Clarence.
Clarence, you dick.
He did squeal, though.
He did.
He stayed strong for a while, but then he sung like a canary.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah. He told him everything. It's like, I work for
Dick
Jones.
Yep.
Dick Jones is my boss. Dick Jones is your boss. Blah, 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 blah. So on and so forth. But our buddy Robo, takes him in anyway.
Book him.
What's the charge?
He's a cop killer.
And there's the spit of blood right on the clipboard.
Just give me my fucking phone call.
All I hear is Red Foreman, though.
Yeah.
He did such a great job.
Dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. I was just waiting for him to say it.
And then, predictably, Dick bails Clarence out.
Isn't it funny that Dick is played by a guy named Robbie Cox?
That guy was typecast.
I only get cast for movies where guys named Dick.
But somewhere also in the mix here, before Clarence gets booked, he has a bit of interaction with our buddy Bob.
Who has the interaction with Bob?
Clarence has the interaction with Bob.
Clarence does have an interaction with Bob. And Bob, before that, Bob had an interaction with Dick.
There's
so okay, just to set these events in motion. So Dick, the senior VP of the corporation, has a meeting with Bob because Bob put his RoboCop program to the old man ahead of the ED-209 program. And Dick was really upset at Bob for doing that.
Yeah, and this whole meeting takes place in a bathroom.
Yes.
Did you guys find it funny that there were stock tickers at the urinals?
I didn't even notice that.
I did notice that. Yeah. It's all business.
business.
Lord
business.
Lord business.
It's not personal.
But yeah, Dick takes Bob out behind the woodshed, basically gives him the whole talk. Back in my day, we had respect for our seniors, and you don't respect me, and blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't really go well. Bob basically tells him to F you, and Dick doesn't really care for that. And as a result, he sends Clarence to pay Bob a visit. And that's where we get this wonderful one-liner.
Bitches leave.
And he sends Bob's his girls out of the way and leaves Bob pretty much in a really bad place.
God damn it! Oh, stop! I'll give you anything you want. Just please don't kill me, all right?
My favorite part of that is that he just tells him to stop while he's getting shot in the legs. It's like he was on so much cocaine that he didn't even feel it. He's just like, stop, that hurts.
I'm cashing you out, Bob.
Yeah, Dick did not take kindly to Bob, and put him to an end.
That was one hell of a grenade.
Yeah.
I mean, the explosion that came from that thing was gigantic.
Well, he has access to military-grade weapons.
That is true.
Yeah.
I don't know what military grenades are like. I guess can't speak intelligently. Maybe they all blow up that way. I don't know.
No, I think this was a movie magic grenade.
I like how he walked away from it, though, as it explodes, and you get that little glimpse of, the whole movie thing, walking away from the explosion. A couple of times in the
there's
movie.
not much. There's nothing much more badass,
right,
than walking away from an explosion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what this does is it solidifies to me that Clarence just does not give a fuck.
No,
not whatsoever.
None to give.
The only thing he cares about is money.
Yeah. And so whenever RoboCop learns from Clarence very easily that he works for Dick, RoboCop, and his sense of justice and also desire for revenge, goes to the OCP towers to confront Dick. And this is where we learn, and this again, where some foreshadowing came in earlier in the movie. We got he was asked his 3 directives, and there was a 4th one that confidential. We knew there was a 4th directive going to come in somewhere, and this is where it comes into play.
What did you think? That you were an ordinary police officer? You're our product.
He's not allowed to hurt anyone who works for the company.
Directive 4.
Yep, Directive 4.
Directive 4, yeah. Directive 1,
something.
Protect and serve.
Uh-huh.
Directive 2, uphold the trust.
Yeah.
Directive 3. Anyone?
I have no clue.
I don't remember either. But then there's that hidden 4th directive that was put into his program where he was not able to arrest, attack, shoot, kill, otherwise harm any employees of the parent company OCP.
OCP immunity.
You got OCP?
Yeah, you know me.
Mm-hmm.
Down with OCP.
I'm down. Yeah. Well, if you're not, you get blown up like Bob did.
Yeah, you do. And so our buddy RoboCop can't do anything to Dick, and Dick then turns Ed 209 out on the loose. And this is where we learn about a really fatal design issue with ED 209 that I think once it got out in the open market would really make it a less than effective crime buster. It can't walk downstairs. Listen to that growl.
I like how he was trying to tiptoe on that first step.
And then it was like a bug on his back.
Yeah.
Right.
He falls down on his back and he can't get up.
And you can hear the tantrum.
Uh-huh.
Like, Ed 209's pissed.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where I kind of got the feeling was Ed 209 meant to be funny? Because there was a lot of funny with that.
I remember thinking when I saw it when I was young, holy cow, that thing is pissed.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it never gets up because RoboCop is toast if that thing ever gets up.
Our RoboCop is hurting. But he does escape with the help of his partner, Lewis. And, this is where we get to actually, they go off to somewhere, some warehouse, steel mill. Murphy, RoboCop, whatever you want to call him, has to do some repairs to himself. And this is where we get the big unmasking scene.
You may not like what you're going to see.
Man, I forgot how cool this actually was. The whole prosthesis where we see the combination where machine meets man.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they did it is just amazing to me that was all done in practical effects with makeup. Because it really is so freaking cool looking.
And I thought it held up too. I thought it looked fantastic for 1987. I was like, man, that actually looks pretty realistic.
Absolutely. I mean, that was, 38 years ago.
Yeah.
And it looked great.
It was also, I was shocked. Number one, from the way the half mask is, it looks like there's no way he could have a nose because there's no indentation. It doesn't stick out really far. So I was like, well, maybe he just doesn't have a nose anymore, and then to see his eye poking through the little glasses part of it, I thought that, I don't know why that kind of took me aback, but I was like, I did not expect him to have eyes.
Kind of like a little window into humanity.
Right.
So Clarence and his army of goons, who are now extremely well armed, go to the steel mill to try to ambush RoboCop. Doesn't quite go the way they think it will. All kind of hell breaks loose. One of my favorite sequences now from the movie pops up when Emil drives his van into a very aptly marked vat of toxic waste.
Toxic waste.
Oh, this
yes.
was the best.
It made me laugh because when the van drives into the vat, no water or fluid comes out. But when he opens the back of the van, suddenly it just pours out.
And he comes out with it.
Yeah.
Right.
In this shape right here.
The Toxic Avenger is born.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And, we see him a couple times during the little interaction. He goes up to the character played by Ray Wise and just looking for help.
I love that it scared the shit out of him.
The flesh is dripping off of his fingers as he holds his hand up.
Yeah, this was another really good makeup design.
Oh, it was disgusting. But yeah, it was worked. And then what I loved, all this, and then how does it end? Clarence runs him over with the 6,000 sucks.
Not just runs him over.
He explodes him.
But his head hits the windshield. And, the front of the car takes the body out. And, with physics, it separates the head from the body, and the head's right there, and it gets smashed into the windshield. It was a phenomenally gross, awesome scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was really well done.
It was.
And then ultimately, Clarence wrecks the car, and then it leads to the big standoff against RoboCop and Clarence. Minus, or plus with the addition of a big bucket load of steel dropped on RoboCop. And then what ends up actually being the thing that saves the day? The serial port.
The USB port.
the stabby USB port. Shocker. Again, spoiler alert from earlier in the film.
I am not a RoboCop.
A couple of things about that scene. This is an abandoned steel mill. There's it's not operational.
Yeah, it's weird that the crane.
The
would
crane
still
is
work.
operational.
And there was parts of it, in there were lights and stuff, and I get it, you need to light your scene, but you shouldn't have operational electrical equipment.
I mean, it seems
working in this abandoned.
Yeah, who's paying for that power bill?
Right.
So there was one moment in the scene though that I think summed up a lot, and you could really feel what RoboCop or Murphy was trying to say. So during this last stand, Annie gets shot up, his partner, and she's in bad shape, and she's lying there. She's conscious. Clarence is dead now, and RoboCop, Lewis, are you okay? And she's like, I'm in bad shape.
Murphy, I'm a mess.
They'll fix you.
That's the moment.
They fix everything.
He says they'll fix you. They fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a pretty deep moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I think at least from his limited amount of life perspective, although I don't know, maybe, I mean, given the fact that he knows he works for OCP, they're ran by Dick and the evil corporation, and, his experience at this point is fairly limited. Yes, they did bring you back to life, and yes, they did give you your job, but they also just tried to murder you multiple times here in the last 30 minutes. So did they really always fix everything?
Well, I don't know if he was talking about OCP. I don't know if he was talking about the doctors that try so hard to save his life.
Maybe.
But I just thought, was it a satirical sentence? Was he saying, yeah, they'll fix you up? Geez, look what they did to me. So there's 100 different ways you could take that comment. And I think it's up to the viewer to discern what exactly he was trying to say there. I just thought it was a real poignant moment.
So that brings us to then the final big showdown. Only big baddie left in the film at this point who hasn't been turned into toxic waste or shot in the dick or stabbed with a USB port is Dick.
The Dickster.
Now,
Dickie.
We know that Dick cannot be harmed because of Directive 4 while he's an employee. But whenever RoboCop comes into the boardroom, provides all the evidence that Dick's not a good dude, Dick loses his shit and takes the old man hostage at gunpoint, acting a bit like a terrorist. Now, at this point, RoboCop can't do anything about it until...
Dick, you're fired!
Thank you.
And of course, Dick gets shot.
Yes, through a window.
A window.
Through a window.
There he goes.
Now, my favorite part about this was not Dick getting shot through a window. There's a character who's in this scene. He appears multiple times throughout the movie. I don't know what his name is. All I could say, he's the gentleman of color wearing the glasses. His look of his expression as this is happening is of pure titillation. That one shot, his face just said everything I needed to know.
Absolutely. It was like the perfect little Easter egg if you're paying attention to the background whatsoever.
He's like, ooh.
He was so excited about
He
that.
was. It was great.
Like, he has a personal vendetta against Dick, but he just couldn't do anything about it the entire time. And he's like, oh, yeah, somebody's going to give it to him. I think a lot of people probably were pretty happy that Dick. That was Dick.
Yes.
Dick died.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dick died.
Dead-eye Dick.
Dead-eye Dick.
And then
Dickie's dead.
To wrap up the movie, though, or to wrap up the action, the old man goes up to Murphy and he's like, nice shooting, son. What's your name? And then RoboCop's like, Murphy. And that's the end of the movie. That's it. That's where it stops.
I thought it was a great ending. I thought it was a great way to end the movie right there.
I mean, it felt like, so usually you have films, movies, stories, books, whatever, they follow an arc. You know, they follow the narrative arc, where you have your exposition, you have the rising conflict, you have the climax, and you have denouement, that declining action where kind of all the little loose ends get tied up. Our denouement for this movie was all of about 37 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, I get it, but I feel like we could have had a little bit more. You know, maybe he goes back to the police station and everyone's cheering him and he's applauding. Maybe, he reunites with his wife and kid and you see him playing catch in the front yard. I mean, still in RoboCop regalia because, he's a RoboCop now. But I feel like it was just something was missing. Like, I wanted more.
Could you imagine how hard he could throw a ball?
Really hard. Super hard.
Dad, you're hurting my hand. Well, just think about coach pitch. Now, I thought it was a wonderful way to end the movie. It ended on a high note. There was nothing but action from start to finish. And for that one word of humanity where he called himself by his own name, I just thought that was a wonderful spot to just cut it.
I mean, I'm happy just seeing somebody else fly through a window. So it ended just fine for me.
Are there any other scenes or any other moments that we didn't talk about that you guys think is worth discussing?
I've got one, and I loved this one. The club scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, RoboCop's going through there. Look, now he's on that revenge
tour,
right?
Yeah.
And he's looking for, anybody from Clarence's gang, and he finds himself at the club, and it is 100% 80s vibe in there. The dancing, the lights, the music, all that good stuff. One of the bad guys pulls a gun on him and he smacks it out of his hand. Did you notice in the background the guy caught the gun, but then just kept on dancing with it?
I did.
Like, he was just like, it didn't phase anybody around.
Like that's a normal thing in that club.
Yeah. It was like the guy didn't even drop a beat.
Like, nobody dropped to the floor when a gun was brought out. He just smacked it out of his hand, and now he's just dancing with a gun, and everybody's yeah, that's great.
And it was also interesting, no one seemed that shocked to see a giant cyborg just walking through the dance floor.
Absolutely not. And then, there was another part where, the guy that pulled the gun out, I don't remember what he said his name was in the movie. But they just kept on dancing, even as he was getting pulled away by his hair.
Mm-hmm.
And they were even down clapping at him. Like, yeah, woohoo, you're getting pulled away. That's awesome. It was just such a really, I thought that part was funny. Like, that one got me a little bit.
Yeah, that was funny. That was a neat commentary on how apparently life was supposed to be like. That violence was an everyday occurrence. So a gun flying through the air was no big deal.
Yeah, I'm just going to catch it and dance.
Right.
This is part of my dance now.
Yeah. Did either of you guys ever see RoboCop Reload?
No.
Especially that scene in the cocaine factory.
Uh-huh.
He let loose a lot of bullets, and not once did he ever reload that pistol.
Yeah, the only time anyone had to reload was whenever Murphy got murdered.
Yeah.
And they ran out of ammo. That's
That's
the only
true.
reason they stopped shooting him.
Mm-hmm. That's the only time anybody reloaded.
Yeah.
RoboCop never reloaded?
I think he did have to reload when he was in the firing range, after completely obliterating the target, which also seemed like a issue with policing, maybe, because he's working in the firing range. And I get when he blows the center mass of the target down to like nothing, but then he decides to just shoot off its arms and then decapitate the target.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah. That seems to be,
well, there was nothing left of the target to shoot at.
I guess.
That was the only thing left.
Well, then wouldn't your robot brain say, stop firing? Quit wasting OCP ammo?
He had an endless supply of ammo.
Maybe
he never had to hit the triangle button to reload.
His programming just told him that the bad guy was still coming towards him, so he had to keep shooting. Like, this thing won't stop.
There was so much that went into making this movie seem more real, and I know we talked a lot about the stop motion work on ED-209, whether you like it or love it or absolutely hate it. It's up to you. The sound design. Now, Justin, you said you didn't really care much for the sound design around RoboCop's movements.
Right. Yeah.
But I actually feel like that's one of something that really made this feel more real. Like all those little servo motions, all those different, the thuds of the footsteps, all those things that were added in post, kind of to the layer on top of layer on top of layer, that just brought a whole new level of reality to the movie.
The only part that took me out of it, and it was just because I recognized the sound, was just the footsteps. And they were always the same no matter what terrain he was on, and it always just sounded like an electric tom-tom, like that was it. But the rest of it, yeah, the other movement sounds and, all those were fine. It was just his footsteps that bothered me. And that's really nitpicky.
Part of the music, though, is the soundtrack. Previous movies we talked to have had those driving rock soundtracks. This is not that.
Right.
This is a score. Mm-hmm. And the main RoboCop theme kind of provided a heroic, sort of militaristic, and at the same time imposing kind of feel to it. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I thought the orchestral score was very supportive of the scenes. Those moments where he was getting his revenge and he was getting the bad guys. The upbeat tempo, almost a future militaristic march being played in the background. I thought it really added to the film. I noticed it a few points while watching the movie, and I was looking for it. I was trying to pay attention to it, and I thought it was spot on. I thought it did well.
It was, for me, again, I was thinking about this today, knowing that we were going to record and talk about it. I didn't notice it. I thought back on it. I'm like, what music was in that? And it's not a bad thing. It went so well that it didn't take me out of it. It didn't, I'm sure it drew me in for sure, but it never at one point was like, this doesn't fit or there's something wrong here. It was just, it really blended into whatever was going on in the scene at the time.
Do you guys have anything else in your notes that you want to bring up?
I do. When he goes to see his old house and it's posted for sale, I thought, the virtual realtor was kind of neat. That was a neat little touch. But I was curious about, like, as he's going through the house, it's empty, but there's like some dead flowers or something along those lines. Why was there a burnt Polaroid?
Yeah, that stood out to me too, because the place is empty and there's like sheets over all the couches to keep the dust away. But for some reason, there's still clutter on the countertops. Right. And there's a Polaroid, of when he was, still Murphy with him and his wife and his kid at Halloween. But yeah, it burnt. Like, so I don't know, maybe there's not a lot of explanation given to what happened to his family after he died.
Right.
All of it says she moved on.
Right. There was a broken mug that said like world's greatest dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was almost like they were mad at him for dying and they burned the picture and broke his mug. But I just thought it was strange because, I thought they did a great job of having the flashbacks and, different scenes of different rooms of the house. There was another scene that he was recalling and, why did the picture need to be in there to spark all of those memories? You're in the house that you used to live in. I think that would have worked without having the burnt photo there.
Yeah.
And then as well as all the flashbacks.
I agree. I think that was just kind of prop clutter.
Yeah.
It didn't add much to the story. I think it made its point through the visual techniques of going room to room and going in and out of the memories. I thought that was plenty. I didn't think you needed the props.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all it did was really introduce a whole. And I kind of wonder if that was something that was taken out of the script between shooting and editing. But we'll never know.
No.
But again, maybe that also would have added to the nice little follow-up. Let's have RoboCop and Junior playing catch. Back in the front yard.
Do you think TJ Laser was foreshadowing as well? Like, did he just essentially become TJ Laser?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Imagine, that bring your parent to school day.
And it's RoboCop.
Yeah. This is my dad.
Man, your dad's the coolest.
Your dad sucks.
Nobody's screwing with that kid.
No.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a single kid in that room that's going to say, my dad kicked your dad's ass.
Well, like that clip, the news clip, introducing RoboCop to the city, where he goes to the elementary school, and the little girl reaches up and holds his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for the kids? And he says, stay out of trouble.
Strong advice.
It is. That's what it all boils down to.
You don't want to be in trouble with RoboCop.
No.
So there's a question I have to ask, especially given the fact of how much this film had to be edited to get it down to the rated R rating. Do you think this film is too violent?
That's the $1 million question.
Is it too violent? I could say it's a bit gratuitous, but there was nothing in it that I was like, oh man, that's just absolutely awful. Look at any Quentin Tarantino film where there's any kind of bloodshed, that is even more over the top, probably for its time in 1987. It was probably like, holy cow, this is explicit,
I agree. I think over time we've all gotten desensitized, and that's a real shame. When I was in 7th grade, this was the most violent thing I'd ever even thought about seeing. And it made a big impression.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit, I was 12 years old. I saw it. I was exposed to that violent movie. And I turned out okay. So far. I don't know if I have some things to unpack, but, it did not affect my maturation in a negative manner whatsoever, being 12, seeing all that violence.
There's no cat heads on sticks or, anything like that.
Not that you know of.
Not that we know of.
Yes.
Well, then you hide it very well.
Thank you.
It's definitely gratuitous. There's a lot of it. I actually think the way it's done, because it's so over the top, it kind of, it's almost comic booky in the way it's done in a lot of, even some of the more brutal scenes. It's almost comical in a really weird, twisted way. Maybe that says more about who I am than what about the movie is. But I definitely found some of the very brutal scenes to be quite humorous.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I actually think that there's just something about it, just the style they found, and I think they really are working on a razor's edge between being gratuitous violence for the sake of gratuitous violence and gratuitous violence for the sake of adding to the film. I think they're riding the edge, and I think actually they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I actually would like to, just out of curiosity, see what the rated X version is. But
is there a director's cut?
There is.
There is a, yeah, you can.
It was on Amazon yesterday whenever I pulled it up. I opted for the original instead of the director's cut.
I did
so
the
we
same
were
thing.
watching the same thing. But yeah, and maybe that is the X-rated version.
Yeah, it's already a memo to myself.
Go back and watch that one.
Yep. So, yeah, anything else? I think we've talked about a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, I think that's all my notes.
Well, since we've covered all our notes,
I think it's about time for some final thoughts on this film.
Yeah. So, Brian, why don't you go to kick us off?
Okay. I'm not sure what I want to say because I loved this film. I loved watching it again. My first thought when I finished watching it was, man, why has it been so long since I've seen this movie? A good movie is one to me that elicits emotion. And when Officer Murphy gets murdered, that was hard to watch emotionally. I mean, I can take the guts on the floor. That's not a big deal. But man, such a brutal, cold-blooded murder. So that elicited a little bit of emotion from me. Watching his revenge tour, you get the, oh, here we go. Yeah, go RoboCop. And I see you start rooting for him. And then to have an ending where it's pure justification. All the bad guys are taken care of. Good prevails. And at the end of the movie, I turned it off. I set the remote down. I collected my notes and I came up the stairs and I felt like $1 million. I felt like I could take on the world. And coming out of a movie and feeling that way tells me that, man, was that a great movie. My wife and daughter were sitting on the couch and they said, hey, I was watching the movie. And I said, it was fantastic. The only thing that upsets me is that I waited so long to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
You were gonna be a bad motherfucker.
Absolutely.
All right, Justin, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. Like, that's a hard bit to follow right there, Brian. I echo 100% what you're saying. Only difference is, I did not see it when it first came out or until today or until yesterday. But I did. I felt the same way. Whenever it was over, I turned it off and I told the family sitting around me that were watching with me. And I was just like, man, that was really good. I would watch that again. I would really watch it again. And it did. It kind of elicited those same kind of emotional cues at the end of it. And really, like, to say, did it hold up? Absolutely. Like, it's just as good now, I'm sure, as it was back then. And would I watch it again? No, I will watch it again.
Right.
I can't wait to watch the director's cut.
I've got to ask you, how did the family like it?
Wife thought it was great, and oldest kid thought it was good too. I was really shocked,
Awesome.
Being 17 years old and, all the things that all the, high tech CGI stuff that they, are exposed to and have been since 2007 when they were born, for them to sit there and really enjoy it as well was pretty interesting. It was neat.
That's pretty telling. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And you need lots of stimulation, Bobby.
Yes, I do.
And this movie delivers it. Plain and simple. Are there things that don't quite live up to today's standard? Absolutely. The stop motion of ED 209 is a bit clunky, a little bit on the jankety side. I still like it though. There's just something about it that still that actually works. There are some holes in the storyline. Sure. There's some, issues like, why is Lewis even trying to make herself a deal here? Who cares? Because the movie is satirical. It's funny. It's action-packed. Yes, shocker, bloody as hell. But that bloodiness is goddamn hilarious. Plain and simple. There's not that many movies where you get to see a guy get his hand exploded off and another dude get shot in the dick. Plain and simple. If that's your thing, this is your movie. If it's not, that's okay too. Plain and simple. I feel bad, just like you guys. I don't know why I've gone so long without watching this movie, but I am excited to watch the director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Me too.
Yep.
Hey, we should get together and do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we do that, though, let's have a little bit of fun with who would win in a fight.
Oh, I love this.
RoboCop or Iron Man?
Iron Man, because he can fly.
That's what I was gonna say. Yep.
Yeah, he's a bigger weapon arsenal.
RoboCop versus the original Terminator, the T-800 from the Terminator in 1984.
Neither one of them can fly.
Nope, neither one can fly.
It'd be a ground battle.
Both are cyborgs. Actually, Terminator's not. I wouldn't call a cyborg. He's fully cybernetic.
Fully robot.
With heavy firepower and program directives.
I'm gonna have to say, it's got to be the Terminator, right? Like, he can't really die. He has no human parts whatsoever.
Yeah. Only dies if you melt him down. Because if you leave anything behind, then you're going to have Skynet in a few years.
Right. I think I'm going to go RoboCop on this.
Yeah.
I think they have similar strength. I think RoboCop's a little bit wiser about the streets.
He's got the street smarts.
Right. So you mentioned Skynet. Who's the worst company, Skynet or OCP?
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Skynet.
Yeah.
But to the battle in question, see, I think T-800 wins. It's going to be close. It'll be pretty nasty. But I think, man, I think while RoboCop's intelligent, I think T-800 is just more adaptive, and I think it's what it's going to come down to. It's going to be close, but I think Terminator
either
wins.
Either way, there's the over and under is real tight.
I mean, RoboCop has to eat.
Yeah,
like
baby food.
Yeah, baby food.
That's the other scene where the guy from the board, the black gentleman with the glasses, enjoying the baby food.
He's like,
he really likes
he's
his
the one
job.
who called it baby food. He's like, hey, it tastes like baby food.
Yeah.
What did the guy Bob says? Knock yourself out.
And what an odd machine that the baby food came out of.
Just pooped it out.
Here's some diarrhea for you.
All right, next one. RoboCop versus the Predator.
Well, they both have thermal vision.
Mm-hmm. I think the Predator's a little bit more agile.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot more agile.
And can also cloak.
But RoboCop's bulletproof.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, if he's bulletproof, like, if he's going to beat anybody who's not bulletproof.
He's bulletproof everywhere except, like, this bottom part of his face.
True.
That needs a dead-eye shot. He's a crack shot. So with that thermal imaging, I think he just picks him out of the tree limbs.
Yeah.
I got to go RoboCop on that.
Yep, I agree.
I think if it gets down to close quarters combat, I will give it to the Predator. But yeah, if they see each other coming from a distance, I don't see it being much of a challenge.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's have a little more fun here with this one. RoboCop versus Jason Voorhees.
The child or the adult?
The adult version, but not like the cyber Jason from the later movies. This is just the standard Jason adult Voorhees with hockey mask wearing, let's say from 3 through 7.
100% RoboCop.
Yeah, I think everyone underestimates RoboCop's strength.
And he's on, like, Jason Voorhees only has the machete.
Yeah.
Or like some other, he's got to have something pointy that he can just find laying around.
Which do you think would win in a foot race?
Not RoboCop.
He's too heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've never seen Jason Voorhees run either.
All right, last one, and this is a you got to probably think a little bit outside the box here because I think some other factors could come in play. RoboCop versus John McClane from Die Hard.
Are we talking in Nomatake Tower?
Let's put him in. Let's give John the advantage. They're in Nokatami Plaza.
Okay. That thermal sighting is John McClane can't hide from that.
You could find him in the air ducts.
He could find him in the air ducts. He could find him under the conference table.
But I think in the air ducts, if the airflow is moving, it's going to provide some masking opportunities of where his heat signature is.
Yeah, I don't know.
And John, see, I know this seems like an obvious win for RoboCop, but John is so dang improvisational.
Is this before? Does John have shoes? Does John McClane have working, good, healthy shoes and socks on?
And a pack of smokes ready to go.
Does he have Bill Clay by his side? Does he have a sidekick here?
Oh, yeah. Right. Phone it in.
He has a machine gun now, too. Ho, ho, ho.
Without shoes, socks, and cigarettes, RoboCop.
Yeah.
With shoes, socks, and cigarettes, John.
I can join you on that. Yeah.
The cigarettes are his superpower.
All right. Sorry, John. You put up a good fight, but so it goes.
Yes, I am a cop.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Regular Guy Movie Show. We've broken it down, debated the highs and lows, and now it's your turn. Do you think this movie still holds up? Would you watch it today? Feel free to leave a comment and add your 2 cents to the conversation. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And if you have a movie you want us to cover, let us know. We might just add it to the list for future episodes. Thanks for hanging out with us, and as always, be kind, rewind.
The Regular Guy Movie Show, talking flicks. Here we go!
Why does RoboCop have to drive? all this technologies that they've put into this person to bring him back to life as a cyborg. Why can't he fly also?
Well, that was probably going to be like version 2.0.
Is that in the sequels?
Yeah.
Save it for the sequel.
You're ruining the ending.
God. Jeez, Justin. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Good question. You think that would be something you would consider? Maybe they just didn't have the budget or the time for that.
I'm also curious too why they didn't just make it a full face shield. Because like my question, what happens if he gets shot in the face?
Well, that brings up a fair question. Why have any human part of it on? Why not just make it a like more android kind of robot?
Right.
I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Did they just need the audience to kind of connect who this was? Maybe, I don't know. Like there's some human element that you needed to see.
I think it gave RoboCop a human element to him. Like when he's out on patrol, and there was one situation where he saves the life, presumably, of a woman, and she comes up and she gives him a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe without that bit of human showing, he wouldn't have the human characteristics that would put people more at ease with him policing.
Madam, you have suffered an emotional shock. I will notify a rape crisis center.
Yeah, that's exactly the right spot for that, because I said he needs to work on his bedside manner a little bit. Like they should have programmed him to be a little softer.